and it's definitely great to be back. And I'm sure I've missed you just as you have also missed me. Let me say thank you very much to all who made it to the famous Little Republic of Edumasa to help us in celebration of the naming and also installation of Nana Ifiasewa as the Queen Mother. It's been great. It's been wonderful. It's clearly done me abruptly. Those brave the road to come and visit us, I want to say massive thank you. And well, today I'm back, and I hope I was going to talk about like educational reforms or something, but no, we are talking about dealing with vigilantism, impunity and discipline, a great sense of entitlement, where people who are pro NPP youth seem to think that by now they should have finished building their castle. And therefore, we hear story after story after story, and I'm told there are about 18 incidents of vigilante violence recorded since January, from court to police station to literally running wild. And the police seem to be very helpless. Some would say for obvious reasons. How long would it go on, and is it a bit too much? Because we know that as soon as any party comes into power, there are certain groups who become above the law. But it seems that the spate, 18 since January, is a lot. Is it going to stop? Is it going to continue? What are some of the consequences? This is one of those things that we should just brush under the carpet because, hey, it happens when the government changes and then it will go away. Or are we gradually lighting a fire that's going to ignite one day and consume us all? Well, that's what we are discussing today. My name is Nana Ansakwao, chief of the famous Little Republic of Akramu, Edumasa, and your favorite TV show host. Don't go, I am coming straight back. Well, thank you very much for staying tuned with me. In the studio is Adam Bona, who is a security and safety expert and analyst. Adam, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And then I want to say good evening to Mrs. Millicent Esiama and Charles Abbey, my brother and my wife, who are ardent viewers of PM Express. So Mrs. Millicent Esiama and Charles Abbey, thanks for tuning to us and staying tuned. I hope you enjoy the show. Should we just leave it? Because as soon as any party comes into power, there are some youth who have a great sense of entitlement and therefore run wild. It could be anything from seizing public places of convenience, lorry stations, or it could be, charging into some ministry or office, thinking that they should be hired. And if things don't go their way, they get angry. We've seen youth barge into courtrooms and, take people out thinking, you have no right trying our man, breaking into police station and freeing corporates. It's one of those things that, look, we'll live with it. We'll pass and go.
Yeah, thank you very much. And once again, good evening to you, cherished viewers of PM Express. And then let me say good evening to the folks at Security Warehouse, and then my wife and the children, Mabel and Co. Yes. Coming back to your question, I think your intro, you said is about 18. In fact, today the count is still on. It's 19. Yeah. And so just this afternoon, the DC Sisala district in the Upper West region, he was literally chased out of his office, and the place, he was bundled out of the office and the place locked up. And so who knows, tomorrow we are going to have another one or two. And so the count, goes on. If we have this number, and then you ask yourself, we are predominantly, looks like we are doing more than averagely about two a month. kind of 2, 3 or 2 something a month. And so it's not something we should just think that is going to go away. I mean, these young people, I call them, you know, political vigilantes, people who feel that my party is in power. We labored for the party to come into power. But one thing usually they forget about or they forget of is that they can't say they are the only people who might have voted for that particular party they belong to have come into power. The only thing which seems not to be getting right has to do with not being able to enforce the law, because then there's a question I keep asking: who appoints the IGP? Who appoints, what do you call it, the CDS? Who appoints the chief fire officer? Who appoint, and so you look within the Constitution, and there's so much power vested into the hands of the executive, and therefore it becomes difficult. I mean, we are at a crossroads where this afternoon I listened to some of the heads of, the police, and they couldn't tell us how they were going to deal with this issue because they are handicapped. That is the truth. Because then, if these guys are arrested, the next moment, one politician is going to be calling and saying, he's one of us, and so you really can't touch him. And so, what do we see? The next day, they are going to do more than that. And so, the count goes on. And so, it is myself and you and viewers, the very ordinary person in Ghana, who is going to suffer. We are sitting on a ticking, time bomb. And it looks like it's about the bread and butter issues. Meanwhile, people are suffering. If you have,
I mean, it's always been with us, from PNDC to NPP to NDC. Anytime there's a change of government, there are some stalwarts who have a deep sense of entitlement who cause row. But then their party goes into power, and then they patiently wait for 4 or 8 years, and then when they come back into power, they misbehave again. I don't know, should we just leave them and not spend airtime on them, or even bother the security people to go and chase them, because nothing will come of it?
No, we can't say, unless we decide we have agreed that all of us would have to be waiting one day to depart this country and become, refugees in another man's country. Mm-hmm. Because then what's going on is that one day, I mean, if you listen to, I think I read somewhere a comment from Dr. Kwesianin where he said, if the police don't seem to have a clue how to deal with this carnage, we should get the military in. Mm-hmm. But that is where you realize the frustration is beginning to set in, because you don't need the military to come in until state of emergency of a sort is declared. And so when the military come in, then you call it, it means everything is just gone. And so it tells you that a time is going to come when the ordinary person would fight back. And the moment that fight back begins, then probably this country is going to erupt into something else. And so let's continue to talk. Let's push them.
2 vigilante indiscipline, violence in a month. Is it not gone yet?
No, not at all.
Well, is one not too much?
Well, the point is that if you recently, when you, I'm sure you are not new to what happened in Kumasi, where, they literally had to break into, jailbreak some of their friends who were in lawful custody, took them out. Anyone who, if you've sat in court before, the judges are so powerful when they are, in that chair. They are so powerful. They can just within a second change your life. These guys were able to jailbreak and get the guys out. And what did we see? The police said for lack of prosecution. And Nana and those who are viewing us, I don't want to, I hope this issue is already in court, the Major Mama issue. Where did the police, where did they get the videos to be able to arrest what do you call it, the guys who perpetrated this heinous crime? Was it not the videos people took? Didn't you see the incident in Kumasi? Didn't we see videos on, what do you call it, on social media, on TV, and the rest? But yet the police said, we don't have the evidence. And so it tells you that it becomes difficult, and sometimes you have to just sympathize with the police, because then it becomes difficult for them. We have very wonderful police officers who probably would want to do the right thing, but they are incapacitated. They are not able to do it. And so where do we go from there? We have to take a decision either to make sure these guys are punished well, locked up if, I mean, they are tried and found guilty. But if incidents like it did happen in Kumasi and they are given just a fine and say, go home. I mean, afterwards, we've had 2 incidents of similar incidents happening. Immediately after those guys were, I call it, set off. I mean, miserably. I mean, they were set off. 2 incidents have taken place.
Let me take you back to what you said, enforcing law. So here we are, party coming into power. Because they are in opposition, they don't trust anybody, let alone the police. They don't even trust the police. So in order to protect their ballot boxes and protect themselves and protect their cohorts, they use these boys who seem to have bigger biceps to say, look, you walk around, protect us, look after this box, make sure nobody takes it, which is illegal because there's the police to do that.
That's right.
So they go through all these illegal means and then now they win power. You don't then suddenly call them and say, look, now we're going to follow the law. That becomes it. So now the party cannot follow the law. The parties, then, the IGP is a political figure.
That's right.
And he's been selected by a party which did not follow the law.
That's right.
So is it not time to bring the army? Because they seem to be on a neutral path. They don't, they don't seem to bother who's there or not.
In a democracy, the army doesn't come in. I've heard, I think somewhere, when this whole takeovers were taking place, the president did mention that he has instructed the IGP to make sure these guys are arrested. I mean, I said it, that the president doesn't instruct the IGP. The president only instructs the head of the army. You understand? The IGP, whatever his mandate has been clearly defined in the Constitution. He's supposed to make sure when I commit a crime, he's been empowered to send me, get all the facts and send me to court. If I'm found guilty, I'm sent, either freed or maybe imprisoned. And so for the president to have said that, I thought we have gotten to a point where everybody's becoming frustrated. Because then the president can instruct the CDS, because the president literally has the key to the armory, where he says, start bombing this country, and you just have to, this is a lawful order. But the IGP doesn't need the president to say, arrest these guys and prosecute them. He needs to do it without looking at the president or looking at the opposition. But unfortunately, we've gotten to a point where it looks like all of us are, frustrated. But just like you said from the narrative, these guys were the guys who were used to protect the ballot boxes, sometimes even provided the current president, when he was the presidential candidate, they might have, given him security here and there, because it's the duty of the police to have done that. The police didn't do that. And so as a people, we've got to come to a point where we ask probably the leader of the state, the president, and our members of parliament. We all suffer. We've had members of parliament who have been beaten, right? And nothing really happened.
Adam, on the subject of the IGP, let's hear what the IGP says on this issue.
Our duty, our mandate, to ensure law and order. But what somebody intends doing, or crime he has intended to commit, sometimes we are unable to prevent it. It does happen, and it is for us to respond accordingly. Well, someone would say that we should live in a society where all these things should not happen. But it's an ideal one, and I don't know I don't think it is possible to have a society that is crime-free. They will occur, but our response and how we are able to manage it is what is important.
Is political manipulation one of the challenges the police is facing in dealing with these?
When crimes are committed, we don't give it any color. It's crime. So we deal with it as that. As a police officer, we deal with crimes. If you are from a political party, you commit a crime, we're going to deal with you accordingly and not as somebody coming from another political party.
Well, it's easier to talk, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very easy
when you push him to, push him to the wall. I mean, definitely he needs to, yeah.
But I mean, there's ample, cases where you can tell that anytime, vigilantes have misbehaved, if their party is in power, it's very, very difficult for the police to move in. But you still don't think the army should come in now?
No, I don't. For me, I mean, I am, the army is our last card. You can't bring in the army. They have no business descending on our streets. The moment, you would have to declare a state of emergency to bring in the army. This issue is really not beyond the police.
They send the army on the Galamsey issue, just pass a little LI and then send them out?
So the point is that I would say for the army, we should do everything we can not to bring in the army at this moment. Bringing in the army would, if you know the history of the army, you are literally asking the army to probably take over. That's what you are, that's what you are, once you are asking the boys to leave the barracks and, flood the streets, yes, it means that you are asking them to literally take over the administration of this country. That's what you are asking them to do.
Not necessarily, but they will respond to anywhere there's vigilante violence. Instead of calling in the police, you just call in the army. Well, and I'm sure if they come out twice, that'll be the end of it.
No, the army don't have powers to investigate some of criminal issues. And so they come in there. Are they now going to arrest and give these guys who are committing the crimes to the police and ask the police, we arrested him there still? Because the army, if they arrest you, they can send you to court. And so we are still going to come back to the same thing. The truth is that some of these people are indeed arrested. But when they are arrested, usually what we hear is we don't have the facts. We don't have the evidence to, send these guys to, charge them with a particular crime. And so even if the army, unless of course we are going to turn the army into, or you are talking about the army coming in and whipping them. Is that what you're talking about?
Sometimes, it's an insult to the citizens' intelligence, where something is clearly black, fine. We've seen it's black, but a court of jurisdiction, credible jurisdiction has to say it's black. We can't say it's black. Yeah. But then they come back and tell, oh no, we didn't see any color at all. That sometimes is an insult. And there are so many blatant, obvious crimes which we have all seen. But maybe if the police were to step aside, whoever did the investigation could be an elementary investigator who will bring the proof. And you see, I think the impunity is because nothing happens.
But you still need the police to go to court. No, the truth is that we still need the police to go to court.
At the moment, I look at the Galamsey issue. The army moves in. They did
it with the police.
Yeah, no, but at least they come to the police and say, look, citizen A, B, C, D, we're doing this, and then they bring it. But the police is in the same area where this thing was going for the past God knows how many years, but couldn't move in.
Well, I am still against the military coming in. We've got to put pressure on the executive and put pressure on probably the IGP and the service commanders, the CID bosses, and all those people to make sure they do what is expected of them.
Were you against the army intervening in Galamsey?
Yes, I was against the army leading the, what do you call it, the military police joint operation. My expectation was, what do you call it, police military joint operation. And if you realize the initial when they went in initially, some of the issues that came out, you remember the army, not the army, the joint team banned some excavators. You remember?
Yeah.
Do you know why they banned the excavators? When you send the army into the war front, they are supposed to bring in war prisoners, but they don't bring in tanks. You ban them. That's the psyche of the military. And so we didn't understand it, and we were kind of too harsh on them. You bring in the military, and they went into the area, they arrested these excavators. They will touch them. It's just like they go into a war, they go into, any conflict, area. By international conventions, war prisoners are supposed to be treated because they could have become war prisoners. But when they caught the excavators, you remember they bent them. Just like they would have treated, the enemy, because to them, the galamseyers this is the tool they are using to perpetuate whatever they are doing. And so, just like they would have done. And so I am, bringing in the military could spell doom for us. Because the military usually are not trained to deal with some of these issues. Because then you irritate the guy, he's going to release some bullets into you. So I would say let's be a bit, let's deal with this issue and not begin to bring in the military.
I think I agree with you in an ideal case. If we had an ideal situation, then yes. But here we are in October, 19 cases of absolute impunity, vigilantism. Walk into a courtroom, free somebody, barge into people's office, chase the district chief executive out of his office. I mean, that's like impunity to, PhD in impunity.
Yeah, maybe, like you said.
PhD in impunity, impunity emeritus.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you get to this point, and police are there, police, as we are speaking, they're probably even watching.
That's right. And most of them are watching. Yeah.
And they cannot move. Because if you move, you'll be transferred to somewhere.
Exactly.
So why don't we then get the guys from the barracks? They don't care transfer. They're already in the bush anyway. So for them, this will be a luxury. It will be a luxury. Get the boys in, because what then happens is 1, 2, and that's it. Because I think one of the main issue here is that there is no consequence.
Well, there isn't. Nana, I mean, seriously speaking, I think the fundamental, question we should be asking is, as a people, how are we pressuring probably our policymakers, the parliamentarians and the rest to I think there was this constitutional review people who went around trying to see what they gather facts to see if I look at it and say the executive, per the constitution, the executive seems to have too much powers. And so, yes, more than you are Nana, but it looks like the executive has more powers.
Godly powers. Their powers is godly.
You are Nana, but we, in our locals, our traditional settings, the Nanas are supposed to have this kind of power. But unfortunately, in a democracy, we elect leaders who are next to God. And so the leaders, the executive seems to have the powers to appoint everybody and disappoint everybody. And so what is then going to happen is that if you listen to the president, from the way he speaks, and I've heard him severally, he's not enthused with what's going on. But unfortunately, the people who are around him probably are not able to bite the bullet, because they are going to be calling him and say, hey, this guy has brought us into power. And so as a people, Nana, we've got to start asking questions and take some of the powers from the president. And I think from what the president said, we are going to be electing our DCs. Do you see MPs being chased from left and right? No, it's not happening. Because then you would go into an area where you would have this particular, electioneering period, a particular political party MP would win or the other would win. And so I think that let's take away more powers, you know, some of these powers from the executive, and, you know, we'll get things working, Nana. That's what I think.
Well, I think I'm still for the army.
Yeah.
I'm still for the army because I think we've had too much free lunches, you know. But here we are with an executive who have encouraged this pseudo illegalism and come into power. Everybody does it. All the political parties have got all these sort of youth who they need and use. You know, so when you then come to power, then you elect a police chief. It's very difficult to now tell the police chief that, well, the people who brought me to power, who made me elect you, now go after them. It will be a catastrophe.
But even so the head of the army is also appointed.
However, the army,
yes.
But even the head, although the head of the army is also elected, the army have got some sort of shield around them. I don't know if it's our mentality, but we sometimes see them as neutral. And if the army moves, you know, everybody is sort of quiet and they're able to move. I mean, the police couldn't move after on Galamsey. They couldn't.
No, you know, the truth is that the police couldn't move because the police are supposed to be dealing literally with civilians and, you know, civil conflicts and, you know, some of these issues. And so, to me, if we have to, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, bring in the army, bring in the army, bring in the army. And I would say that if the army comes in, that is likely to spell doom for all of us.
But do you think there's a long-term consequence in this? No,
there's a long-term consequence. If you don't deal with it, what is going to happen is that this young tarts, young, you know, rampaging youth who have become uncontrollable, one day they are going to consume all of us. It's going to happen because at the moment it's making a lot of people, Ghana is arming. Are you aware of it? The new craze is people are now buying arms. I'm sure you know, or you are not aware of.
I know.
People are arming because then, well, the police will not be there to protect me. And so why shouldn't I arm? And so that is not to say we should bring in the military. Let's, as a matter of agency, put in measures where the police would be seen to be doing what is right so that myself and you, and we would have sent a strong signal to this rampaging youth and, you know, vigilantes. If the incident that happened in Kumasi, these guys were punished severely. But what happened? They were given some chicken fee fines and they paid them the same day. And so we've had incident in Karaga 2 days ago, yesterday or so, and today in Sisala we've had another one. And it's going to continue. Because you see, expectations are so high, youth unemployment, and people are expecting that within a very short time, as this current administration has taken over, their lives should change. They are not impatient. And so how do we deal with that issue? And so I would say that, Nana, we've got to push the police. I mean, we've had them, I mean, some of us have a lot of interactions with them. They are wonderful police officers who are doing what is expected.
Police, but if the police move, they will get a call from a commissioner, they will get a call from somebody above, and if he's a sergeant, if he's a, you know, lance corporal, and his big boss says, hey, I hear you picked up these guys, release them. What am I going to say? Excuse me, say, I'm not going to release them. Really? No.
Well, that is true, but so then we are at a dead end. Mine is that the president...
We are at a dead end.
We are at a dead end because the president publicly would say, hey, catch when you get them, do A, B, C, D to them. But remember the chain of command, you know, information flows up and it comes down in that order. And so the guy is arrested, and just like you said, somebody calls and the next day the guy is free. And so others get to do the same thing.
Adam, to prove that we are at a dead end, I mean, have you ever heard the president say, well, if you ever catch a goat thief, arrest him? It never happens. The police just know that, look, you're a goat thief, you go. So for the president to now come and say, look, if you get these vigilante guys, get them. It means that why is the president, separating this particular crime? But pickpockets and gold thieves, they don't need anybody's instruction.
Exactly.
They are bundled.
Exactly.
So we are at a dead end.
We are at a dead end, and so. What do we do? What we've got to do is to start asking the executive questions. We should start asking our members of parliament. And I see this because we have the August House of Parliament. What are they saying? What are they? I mean, they've made comments here and there. We elected you have an MP where you are. I have an MP. All of us here would belong to a particular constituency if you look at the boundaries. And so we all have MPs. And these MPs are suffering just like us. But I think that we need them at this juncture to perform a certain function, which probably they are not doing it the way they should do it. Because at the moment, we are at the dead end. We have parliamentary select committee on, security, on defense and this, on that. What are they doing to get us safe and secured in this country?
Let me take a quick break and come back. And I want to come back, divert a little bit and look at the paperless police system. I want to divert a little bit, look at paperless police system. Stay tuned, we're coming back.